I'm here with Alan Pruitt. I'll let you do the introduction.
Okay. My name is Alan Pruitt, and I am the rector of St. Mark's Church in LaGrange, Georgia, an Episcopal Church in downtown LaGrange. And rector just means I am the priest in charge of the church. Kind of think of director. The word comes from the same root word, so it's a strange word, but that's my job title.
Okay. So what would you say you're most known for here in LaGrange?
I think, to some degree, people recognize me, and I barely recognize them if they've been to a funeral here or something like that. And I always think I should know people, and it has to do with my job. But to some degree, I think I'm probably more widely known as the dad of my daughters and the husband of my wife. I think I know even more people through them than I do through my church.
Really? That's interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I think it has to do with just how social they are and how many people they know, and so the number of people that I knew grew exponentially when I married them.
So would you like to give a shout out?
A shout out to them?
Yes.
Oh, my wife Casey and my daughters Abby, Grace, and Isla. Yeah, they're great. They're a lot of fun and a lot of energy.
All right. So how long have you been the rector at St. Mark's in LaGrange?
A little over 9 years. I moved here in October of 2010.
Okay.
And so about 9 years and a month, I think, roundabout is how long I've been here.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I remember Flora and I moved to LaGrange in June of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been here maybe less than a year when you came.
That's right, yeah. So if you moved in the summer of 2010, I didn't yet have this job, but I was interviewing for it, and then got the job in late summer and started in October.
Yeah.
And I've been a priest for about a little over 12 years. Got ordained to the priesthood in July of 2007.
Okay.
And then my first job was about 3 years, and then I've been here ever since.
So where was your first job?
Great Falls, Virginia, a bedroom community outside of Washington, D.C. If you're on the west side of D.C., it's like the last exit before the river, before you cross over into Maryland. So,
was it a big transition moving from outside D.C. to LaGrange?
It was a big transition, but I really had only lived in that area for 6 years, and they were 6 pretty formative years, and I really loved it. But I'm originally from Rome, Georgia, and so that's just about 2 hours straight north on Highway 27 from LaGrange, and so I grew up 20 miles east of the Alabama border, and I now live 20 miles east of the Alabama border. So in some ways, it feels much more familiar than what I was used to up in D.C.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So we covered what first brought you to LaGrange, but what's the story behind moving here? There's got to be a story.
Yeah, the story is, being a priest means you can't hang your own shingle like a lawyer. You can't just decide where you want to live, and so you look around to see what's open and what you're interested in at times in your life when you're interested in moving. 3 years as an assistant priest is about normal. And it was time for me to be looking, and also just was looking to move back closer to my family. Like I said, I grew up in Rome, Georgia, and so my grandmother lived in Cedartown, which is even closer to LaGrange.
Okay.
And so I was very excited about anything that was open in the Atlanta area, but was especially excited about a church and a community that was open within an hour and a half of where my family was. Okay. And so that's probably the biggest driver behind why I was just so excited to move here. There were other churches that I looked at in that time period, and some that I even withdrew my name from consideration because it just wasn't a good fit. And so LaGrange was both a good geographical fit, kind of the story I've already told, but it also was a great fit in terms of the church itself, and was very excited about the possibility of moving here, and have stayed excited and continue to be excited about being the rector here at St. Mark's. It's a great community of people, and a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and a lot of good people to work alongside of.
Okay. So just to clarify, in the Episcopal Church, the priest picks the church, they're not assigned. Because last week we talked about with Adam Roberts, he was assigned by the priest.
Yeah, by the bishop, that's right. So, yes, the Methodist Church has a deployment system that's much more similar to the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
The hierarchy kind of decides. They tell the minister and the church who is going to get paired up together. There is obviously some say-so and probably some politics that play into that. But in the Episcopal Church, it's much more of kind of a free agent market system where a church is vacated by a priest either through retirement or something else, or they leave to get another job, and the church puts together kind of a job description. We call it a parish profile.
Okay.
And a prospective priest looks at that profile and says, hey, I'm interested in that. I might want to be there. And they submit some materials, and then it's about, from the time you submit your materials, it's probably about a 6-month process of them looking at paperwork and having phone interviews. Now, 10 years later now, probably Skype interviews, and then actual in-person visits. And so it's a much more of a free agent market system in the Episcopal Church. The priest doesn't decide, unfortunately. I mean, we don't get to just say, hey, I want to be there, but it's a partnership of deciding between the priest, the parish, and the bishop.
Okay. I think I get it.
It's a lot more straightforward than, well, actually that's not true. It's much less straightforward than the Methodist system, but it also means there's a lot more freedom for the parish and
Mm-hmm.
the priest to decide for themselves what is a good fit and what is not.
Mm-hmm.
So increased complexity also increases the level of freedom that each party has.
Which makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. What do you wish you had first known when you moved to town?
I wish I had known that it was impossible to have friends unless you had a family. Now, some of that is because I moved to town single,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was interested in dating and, getting my feet wet in town, and then figuring out about dating and, finding people to date and all that. And that was pretty difficult in town. And so, used internet sites and like Match.com and stuff like that. Who knows what people use nowadays. But did all of that kind of stuff, which to some degree took me out of the town and out of some of those social events, probably because I just didn't know where to go to meet people. And now, like I said up front, I know way more people because of my children
Mm-hmm.
and my wife and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's, I think that the, 20-something or the 25 to 35-year-olds who are single or who have no kids
Mm-hmm.
have a little bit easier time of it 10 years later with places like Wild Leap and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
breweries and bars and stuff like that. But there was none of that here when I moved here. And so it was...
I very much understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was a difficult scene as far as not just meeting, women to date, but just meeting friends and people my own age who didn't already have kids. It was very difficult to meet anybody in those circumstances. And I wish I had known that up front. It wouldn't have stopped me from moving here, but I would have had a different set of expectations.
Mm-hmm. That kind of aligns with some of my experiences too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always hard when you're so used to... I've been in seminary till I was 27, and then, working in a major metropolitan area from 27 to 30, many of my seminary friends still living in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to maintain friendships and, that sort of thing. And then to move to a much smaller area and not have those built-in friendships was kind of a double whammy. I wasn't in a big area and I didn't have built-in friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think it's always harder to make friends outside of school settings or forced environments like a school is.
Yeah.
And so it's just much more difficult.
And I would actually agree with that. I would somewhat say that I have very similar experiences. And now that I have children, I'm surprised at how easy it is to make friends now that I have children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you kind of have to like pick and choose your relationships now,
Yeah.
as opposed to hey, you're spoiled for choice as opposed to wondering where everybody is.
Exactly. So, what is your favorite story about living in LaGrange thus far?
Oh man, I'm not good at thinking of these. This is the one I thought about and could not come up with a good specific thing. I mean, the nicest thing about living in LaGrange is also one of the harder things about living in LaGrange, which is just how you know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's really lovely how you can leave your house, and when, at least for me, I live on one of the busiest streets in LaGrange, and when I leave my house, you know, somebody honks at me, which is sometimes annoying, but sometimes it's great because you're like, hey, there's that person I know. And then drive to a restaurant, and then you see two people you know there, and then go from the restaurant to, you know, the small out by the interstate, and you see three people you know there, and it can be really lovely to see your community on such a frequent basis, or go to Publix. Good Lord, anytime you go into any of the grocery stores, you're always going to run into somebody that you know, whether you are looking your best or, you know, might as well be in your pajamas. And so it's one of those things where you have to take the good with the bad, and it's mostly good to be able to see people, and it does make me feel less isolated. You know, I feel a lot less isolated here in LaGrange than I did in DC, because, you know, I lived in one community and worked in a different community and commuted and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I knew the people I knew, but I never really met anybody. I never met a new person.
Okay, yeah.
And so here I had to meet new people, which took a long time, but, you know, eventually you feel like you know everybody. Even though you don't. It's just like the same 100 people, but still there's 100 of them. But I mean, and then another funny story is just that I was like spending, I don't know how much it was, $15 a month on Match.com and driving to Peachtree City or Atlanta or wherever to go on dates, and then I wound up marrying a woman who lived 1.3 miles from my house, you know, and so we wound up meeting, and that's kind of a very LaGrange kind of thing.
Tell me more about that.
My wife and I met at a Christmas party, and we met one year at a Christmas party and didn't really hit it off. I mean, we weren't antagonistic by any means, but we just kind of met, shook hands, whatever. Okay. And then at the next Christmas party, a year later, we met again, and we really did hit it off that time, and kind of just began to talk to each other, and it's one of those things that just unfolded slowly over the course of 6 or 8 weeks to where we're like, hey, I think we might be dating.
Oh, okay.
And so then we were, and, you know, defined the relationship and moved forward from there. So, yeah, that's how we met, was at a mutual friend's Christmas party.
A year before you actually started dating.
Correct.
That is an interesting nuance.
Yeah, I met her a month or two after I moved here. Moved here in October, and Christmas party that same year, 2010, but we didn't start, you know, we didn't hit it off, like I said, until a year later, December 2011, and maybe, you know, even a couple of weeks later.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your favorite spot or place in LaGrange? And you can't say the church because that's a cheap answer, and
that is a cheap answer. I mean, it's a lovely church, and it's a beautiful place. If you've never been inside St. Mark's, I encourage you to come for Christmas Eve services, 5:30 and 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve. That was cheap. But
gotta get the promo in.
Exactly, promo. My favorite spot in LaGrange, I mean, there's all kinds of little hidden gems. Like, I really wish that the Hillside neighborhood was a little bit more developed. I like the fact that, you know, that Beacon and some other things, that now Cart Barn are both over there in that area, but it just seems it's like already set up to be another little downtown. You know, it's got shops and places to park and all that sort of stuff, and I think I would love to see some more areas like that. It always surprises me, you know, how things connect when you don't just take Whitesville Road and Hamilton Road and those when you try to go in between places, especially because often I'm just going from home to a soccer practice or from home to the grocery store, and so if I'm not careful, I can find myself always coming, and because I live downtown, I can wind up coming back to my house before I go somewhere else. Instead, I can wander around a little bit and move through the community and find different funny ways to get places. I don't know that it's in LaGrange, but I really, it's in Troup County. I really like the Mountville community, all these small towns and
Mountville.
Mountville, out past the mall. If you keep going, my girl's grandparents live there, and so you go out past the mall, and it's just this. It's the oldest settlement in Troup County, I think they say. Okay. And I love little small communities like that.
It's on the way to Greenville, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you blink, you miss it.
Okay.
And so stuff like that, or going out to the peach farm. Out past Greenville, you go and get peach ice cream, and those kinds of. I love the fact that we're, it could be a little annoying when you want to actually hold a shirt before you buy it, because there's no good place to buy men's clothing in LaGrange. But by the same token, though we are not close to anything, we're also not very far away from anything. And so I appreciate the fact that in 40 minutes I can be in Auburn or Opelika, really, and then in an hour and 10 minutes I can be in downtown Atlanta, or that kind of thing. And then also within 20 or 30 minutes I can be at some little peach farm or some other kind of farm, getting fresh stuff, and it's a cool area for that reason. I'm learning to appreciate
LaGrange for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are really in a key location. We're just an hour from Atlanta, which is the hub of the Southeast. It really is. We're an hour from the biggest metropolitan area in the Southeast.
Yeah. Well, and we're less than that away from the airport. I mean, I know friends of mine who live on the north side of Atlanta, and they're 15 miles from the airport, but it takes them 2 hours to get there sometimes.
Because of the traffic on the Beltline. Yeah.
And it really takes us 45 minutes to, get to the parking spot, and then another 15 to get to the security line.
Yeah, I can be door to door I can drop you off from my house door to door in an hour flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can have you on the curb.
Yeah, absolutely.
In an hour.
And it's pretty predictable. I mean, there's a little traffic sometimes depending on the time of the day, but it's the great thing about being on the same side of town as the airport is it's pretty predictable. And, for me, the only downside is it's you have to get through Atlanta to get to the mountains. That's the only bad part about the location of LaGrange. I love going to the North Georgia mountains.
You don't cut up straight up 27?
No, because I like to go to the part that's directly north of Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
LJ, Blue Ridge, that kind of thing.
Got it.
And the traffic has to be pretty miserable for taking the westerly route to make sense.
Okay.
And it sometimes is that miserable, but then it's taking you 3.5 hours to get up there. And really, with no traffic, it should be 2.5.
Got it.
And so, but yeah, that's the only downside of the location is it's not on the right side of Atlanta from the mountains.
So, what is your go-to order at your favorite restaurant or bar?
Well, for me, so my go-to order has become a lunch at 505 Eats.
Okay. And
pretty much every week there's some kind of special that I'm interested in.
I was going to say, is there any special order off the menu that you...
And so, the stuff that's always available, the spicy chicken salad, I just love that. And the potato chips are better than any potato chip. I don't know what they do to those things. I think they fry them or something, but on site. But they're just delicious. In fact, that's where I just was eating lunch, was at 505 Eats, before you and I got together. And so that would be my order. And then also, what is it called? There's some kind of sticky rice dish with really spicy chicken that she makes. It's called chicken larb. And every time it's on the special menu, I go in at least twice that week and sometimes 3 times to get it.
That's Joyce at 505?
Yeah, Joyce at 505. That is my number one place to go for sure.
sticky rice with chicken?
It's called chicken larb is the dish, and so there's sticky rice on one side and like this shredded chicken on the other that is like super spicy and will make you sweat, but it is so delicious.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds interesting.
It's delicious. Yeah. I mean, and really, like, to have a place in LaGrange that offers kind of ethnic foods and things that are not... To have a place in LaGrange that is offering, you know, ethnic foods and foods from all over the place, and they're fresh, and the ingredients are good, and all that sort of stuff, that is what is so delightful about that place. Because, you know, I like sushi. I like it fine, but there's like 3 places that serve mediocre sushi in LaGrange and none that serve really great sushi. And there's no place that serves any kind of like authentic Asian cuisine of any kind, much less, I mean, not even Pan-Asian, much less like Thai or good Chinese or, you know, things like that. So the great thing about her restaurant is that when she serves those specials, it is always a good version of whatever it is.
Got it.
It sounds like I work for her, but I don't. I just give her a lot of my money.
What's the hidden gem in LaGrange that no one else knows about?
You know, I don't know if I am qualified to speak about any kind of hidden gems in LaGrange. I mean, to some degree, I feel like the cloister garden right outside my office here at St. Mark's is is literally a hidden gem. It's a beautiful garden that we have here.
I just actually found that last Easter.
Oh, really?
I've gone here for 9 years now.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
And I just literally saw that last Easter because my son was exploring the church and he ran around in it.
Well, it's hidden all right, but it's a beautiful spot, and I really love it. It's good. The only time it's not great to be down there is like the middle of summer, just because it's an oven basically.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there's shade, but I love that spot, and it is literally hidden. But like, I like. This is not hidden at all, but I do love going to like Hills and Dales on their open house days where they have garden parties or those kinds of things, because you can just kind of wander around and get lost in that spot and in those places. And then I'm trying to think about other spots, but I mean, really, you find yourself with friends at a restaurant and you're there for an hour and a half, and because it's LaGrange and nothing is very far away from anything else, it's easy to meet up, and you don't have to move heaven and earth to make plans and all that sort of stuff. So that's really what I love about living here.
Okay. So the hidden gem is the people, not necessarily the places.
Perhaps. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
All right. Random questions for fun. If you could be a superhero, what would your power be? What power would you possess?
Is there a superhero that does teleportation? Because I would totally do that one. If I can't teleport, I would do flying. And flying is for 2 reasons. Partly because when I was a kid, that was what I just always, like, literally that's what I dreamed about.
Okay.
I had dreams about, jumping off of the hill at my elementary school, and instead of falling down to the playground, like flying over the playground, and I had these fantastic dreams about that. But also because I love to travel, and so if I didn't have to pay for airfare, I would travel a lot more. And so, that would definitely be my superpower, because seeing new places and going back to places I've already been that I loved, like those are, when you have to pay the airfare to get there, it's always a choice between the new place or the old place, and which one is better to go deep or to always discover something new. And I feel like I would be unburdened from that choice if I could just get there myself.
Okay, so the flying wouldn't be about the thrill of flying; it would be about the getting to the place for cheap.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the thrill has to do with my childhood dreams, I suppose, and I definitely think that it would be a thrill. But I don't particularly care about like hang gliding or parachuting or jumping out of a plane or or even learning how to fly. You know, I don't particularly care about learning how to fly. You know, it is more practical, I think.
Got it. All right. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food would be... Oh, this is tough. This is very tough. I think, though, my favorite food would be like steamed mussels.
Steamed mussels?
Yes, like in a garlic and butter and lemon sauce.
Okay.
Yeah. And yes, that would be my... If I had to pick one thing to eat...
When was the last time you had that?
That would be it. I've had versions of them. There's a decent version of it at Marisol here in LaGrange, and I used to think it was more than decent until I had some in Italy one time. And it is good. It's really good, but you know, it just doesn't. We're also not on the ocean. I'm sure that if I went to someplace on the Gulf, or you know, someplace a little closer to the ocean than LaGrange, which is a whole other thing that's great about here, is it also is like, what is it, 4 hours to get to the Gulf of Mexico from here? It's not too bad at all. And so, but yeah, that's my favorite absolute dish for sure. It's not something I can cook myself, but it is my favorite.
All right, last one of these. What is your best MacGyver moment? Do you know what I mean by that?
I do. I think
Okay.
I do, in terms of just like making shit work.
Yeah.
You know? So I've done a lot of this over the years. I've had children now for 6.5 years. And so there are lots of opportunities to just make things work.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, see, when people ask me these questions, I even thought about this one ahead of time and I couldn't come up with a specific example. It's an excellent question though, and I can't think. Okay, tell me yours.
Well, I can make a bong out of anything.
Well, okay, that gives me something to work with. It was actually not with children, but, and I don't know that it was really a MacGyver moment, but after I moved here, I went to Home Depot and bought all of this like PVC pipe material.
Okay.
And then went to Walmart and bought a can of Rave hairspray.
Okay.
And a lighter. And I created a potato gun.
Awesome.
We took it to my grandmother's house, you know, for a long time, and we would shoot potato, and I think that we measured like, I don't know, like 200 yards. The thing, and it had a nice sound to it. The problem is I made it too big, and so you had to buy gigantic potatoes to like get enough pressure.
Got it.
I should have used smaller pipes so that I had cheaper ammo. But that was definitely that was a pretty proud moment when I made something work. Also, anytime you go to IKEA, it feels like a MacGyver moment.
Seriously.
So yeah, I mean, it just the level of stuff that I'm presented with to put together and to fix as a dad the volume is overwhelming, and so you know that's why I had trouble thinking of a specific moment. The potato gun predates children, and it's a pretty proud moment now that I think about it because it worked like a charm.
Awesome.
But there's lots of little fixes that happen, you know, every week when you have children.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I constantly yell at my son all the time for hanging off the bed, like he's hanging on the wrong side of the bed or climbing up the not the ladder, using the inappropriate hanging off.
Oh, so he has a bunk bed.
Yes, he has a bunk bed now.
Oh, okay, and he likes to
swing on things that aren't meant to hold his weight.
Yes. Well, a fall will perhaps teach him.
I'm not worried about him falling. I'm worried about breaking the bed.
Oh, that's true. That's fair. Totally fair.
Because I built that thing. I
Yeah.
had to put I put my blood, sweat, and tears into putting that thing together.
Right. Absolutely.
And my money.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Well, yeah, until they actually pay for stuff, then they don't appreciate what it takes to even bring it into the house, much less put it together.
Yes. All right. So, is there anything else that I should have asked you but didn't?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm so used to being asked theological questions. This was great to like get a chance to just talk about what it's like to be a member of the community and to live in this particular place. Every year, since 2014, I have partnered with various Methodist clergy in town to put together a service that we call Longing for Light in the Darkness. And it generated from seeing other churches do things like Blue Christmas service, where you're focused on people who are sad around the holidays. But what I notice is people aren't always just sad. A lot of people are sad because you miss loved ones. It's particularly poignant in the holiday season, but also people are overwhelmed during the holiday season, overwhelmed with expectations about parties or food or gifts or money or things like that. And so I wanted to try to find a way to offer a space for people who just feel overwhelmed, whether it be by grief or expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And so every year we offer a service at this year it's going to be 5:30 on the Wednesday before Christmas, December 18th, 5:30 p.m. It lasts for an hour. It is a reflective service with familiar hymns, songs that are easy to sing but also meaningful, scripture readings, and 2 sermons. And this year I will be preaching a short sermon, and so will the Reverend Hazel Glover, who is a priest in Noonan now, but she was originally from St. Mark's and grew up in LaGrange.
Oh, okay.
And so she'll be here for that service. Just confirmed that today.
Awesome.
And also still going to continue to partner with the chaplain at the college, Adam Roberts, who you interviewed most recently, and my good friend Rick Threadgill at Lloyd Presbyterian. So they continue to partner with me, as well as I'm trying to bring in some female voices and other people to be part of the service. And Hazel was a good fit because she grew up here.
Okay. Thank you very much.